To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
What is it about Disney that makes us happy? Is it the magical whistle as your ticket is scanned at the main gate? Is it the seafaring smell of pirate water? Or is it charting a course to a land where you may never grow up? Whether it's singing a familiar song, watching a movie, or riding your favorite attraction for the 100th time, Disney undeniably has a way to warm our hearts, believe in magic, and bring joy into our lives. This is Main Gate Magic, a podcast where we break down and discuss the infectious happiness, delight, and thrill of all things Disney.
Hi, everybody. I'm Thomas, filling in for Jason tonight, our usual host. And I'm joined by Sir Andy Nelson.
Greetings from the dark side. Yes.
Happy May the 4th to everyone who celebrates or celebrated.
Right. And today, Revenge of the 6th.
So this is kind of a condensed episode. Jason and Lisa, his wife Lisa, are actually enjoying Star Wars night tonight at the parks, Disneyland. So if you recognize him, feel free to say hi.
Yes.
I would say he has a pretty iconic face. Not many people look like Jason.
Yeah, if you spot him there, just give him the business. Just razz him.
Razz him. Try to stump the Dark Lord. Try to stump him. Try to if you have any burning questions that Disney trivia that you don't think he would answer, Star Wars trivia, feel free to stop him and try to stump him.
Yes.
And then our other co-host, Leia, she should be back with us next week, hopefully interviewing Adasa, who
Oh, yes.
works in Kanto. Hopefully she'll be able to make it. But yeah, just gonna dive right in. Let's say hi to a few of our fans. Shamim says, "Good luck, everyone." Thanks, Shamim. I'm hopefully pronouncing.
Hey, Shamim.
Hi, Shamim. And then we have Patricia, our good friend Patricia.
Patricia. Hi, Patricia.
Hi.
Yes.
And then Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. I think you're a friend of Andrew's, right?
Yes.
Yes. Also my friend, I should say. My new friend.
That's right. Yeah.
So I will just dive right in. As you know, this last week was May the 4th. I am a cast member at Disneyland, downtown Disney specifically right now, and I was working the Star Wars trading shop. So I'm a bit of a beginner, like intermediate 90s kid. So I'm just kind of thrilled that I get to interview Darth Vader. At least the one of the people wearing the suit.
Yep, that's right.
Well, Andrew, my first question I was going to ask you, what was one of your favorite moments wearing the Darth Vader suit?
Oh gosh, let's see. There's so many of them I could write a book. In fact, my wife is pushing me to do so. And I wanted to say off the top, I'm a little under the weather. There's been a great disturbance in the force, and I'm a little stuffy, a little sinus stuffy. So if I sound a little bit different than I did the last time I was on the show, that's why. So, but I've got my mug of tea right now, and I'm let's see. There's been so many interesting moments. Like I said, I think I mentioned before about some of them. One of the one that I'll mention for right now is like the very first time I put on the costume, because it was just for a charity event for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. They wanted to have a moment where the kids could, take their photo with Darth Vader and a couple of stormtroopers. And so I went up to Skywalker Ranch to try on the costume that was up there at the archives building. But it's amazing because, the part of me is like geeking out over the fact that I'm putting on the original costume. It was actually one from Empire Strikes Back. Right. And so I didn't know. I thought this was a one-time deal. I thought, I just thank God I had a chance to do it. But they kept calling me back. So it ended up being 70 times altogether. But at that first moment, I tried it on. It was very disorienting because first it's very heavy. and I have no. People ask me all the time, well, how heavy is the Darth Vader costume? It's made out of leather. It's made out, the hard parts are made out of fiberglass, and then the cloth parts are made out of wool. So it is a very heavy costume, and it's 17 pieces. So you put it on so slowly, it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and so I put it on so slowly that you just don't realize how heavy it is. But after a while, when I first got it on, I started to kind of mess with me, because it's a little bit of sensory deprivation when you get the mask on, because there's foam rubber right up against your ears, so it makes it hard to hear outside of the mask. You've got these lenses that are right in front that are curved, and I normally wear glasses. I don't have them on now because I'm a vain actor. And I can't wear them underneath the mask. So the distortion on the lenses, it took me a while to get used to that. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, can I even do this? Because I got it all on, put the mask on, and they said, okay, walk around. And it was like kind of, disorienting. Yeah. But I got used to it.
So probably no, like,
that was really cool.
Yeah, probably like no AC or fans inside, just like
no, nothing like that. There's
sweating bullets kind of thing.
You see the people that make their own Vader costumes now, or stormtrooper costumes and things like that. All the wonderful people from the 501st Legion, that they put little fans inside there. They get like little fans from laptops and that kind of thing put in there. I never had that. I even asked them because the lenses fog over so easily. I even asked them, can you just like drill a hole in the corner just to let some steam out? And no, can't do that.
It's kind of like when you get a new pet and you like poke a hole so you can breathe.
yeah, that's how it was. But there's moments like that. There was it was a lot of fun to shoot the stuff that we did 30 years ago. I can't believe this. 30 years ago for the game Rebel Assault 2. Which was the first live-action Star Wars footage that had been shot since the 2 Ewok movies from the 80s. And so we shot it all blue screen, and for the LucasArts game. So it had a half hour of full motion video in it, but that was a lot of fun. That was a blast to shoot that. Of course, shooting the stuff for the special edition is the most amazing thing, because it's like then I've gone from being like a guy who also plays Vader to being Vader in the film, and so I get to be part of my favorite film franchise, and that was incredible. So, but it just kept going and going and going, and I never counted on there being a next time, and I never counted on there being a last time. You just never know. You don't know where life's going to take you. So.
That's very true. Like as an actor myself, like you never know. You hear these like stories from actors, like sometimes the gigs just keep giving, or sometimes it's the one thing you never know. But like thank God, like we had more and more and more.
And it's like it's led to so many other things for me. It's like I got my union card as a member of the SAG-AFTRA union because of Vader. I got into the Visual Effects Society and served 2 terms on the board of directors of the Visual Effects Society because of Star Wars. It just keeps on giving.
Wow. And as an actor myself, like that SAG card, it's like that's like I've arrived. That's your kind of like I've arrived moment,
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, the acting union, you have to qualify to get into that. There used to be 2 different unions. There was the Screen Actors Guild, and there was the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. And the Screen Actors Guild was a closed union. You had to qualify. AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, that was an open union. So if you wanted to pony up the money, which I think was like $2,500 or whatever, you could join. And so some people did that just before the 2 unions merged so that they could get in easier. But you have to qualify. And it was halfway through a commercial shoot for Taco Bell, a big Star Wars Taco Bell commercial that played during the Super Bowl in, I think it was 1997. That was what qualified me for being union. So,
wow, I remember that commercial. Yeah, it was like
I
was like 10.
Big movie premiere on another planet, and oh boy, okay, that's a good story as far as like the story wearing the costume. So we did this commercial. We shot it in December of '96, and then it played during the Super Bowl in '97, and then just kept playing and playing and playing.
Yeah.
But the scene is it's this movie premiere on another planet, and they've got a bunch of it. They got like 100 extras or whatever there, and you've got 3PO and R2 and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And they're walking the red carpet along with Vader and some stormtroopers, and it was they for whatever reason they wanted to make it look, they thought this would look great on camera, so they just before they or just right after they rolled cameras, before they said action, they shot off these air cannons that shot gold glitter up into the air, and so it would rain down on us.
Yeah.
I got to take a sip of my tea here.
Oh, yeah.
And so that gold glitter got into everything. Everything. We're combing it out of Chewbacca's fur. It's in all the costumes. And you could tell where we were staying at the hotel, because even out in our street clothes, we're leaving glitter all over the floor of the hotel. It was crazy.
Wow.
But and for years afterwards, we would keep finding pieces of gold glitter in like the trunks that the costumes are in, or something like that. It was fascinating.
That's like true.
Excuse me a moment. Wow, I lay off those cheap cigars.
That's like that's awesome. Like I would just that would feel magical to me, just to find that gold glitter. And we have a few people saying hope you feel better, Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
Paul is saying Andrew, you sound great, just too much pollen out there.
Yep. All right, I'm better.
No worries.
This is going to happen a lot tonight, folks. What's I wanted to ask you a question, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
There are different moments in different Star Wars films that really resonate with people. Is there one particular moment in any of the films where you just go, oh, that's that cool moment, that moment that I really love, that just does it for me? It puts that tingle in the back of my spine.
I think I know a lot of Return of the Jedi really feels like that for me. Like, so that's again, cool. I'm kind of a beginner. It's like, what's the place called where they're in Return of the Jedi, like the forest?
Oh, Endor.
Endor.
The moon of Endor.
Like, a lot of those scenes feel like kind of like a comfort, comfort movie, or just like a blanket, kind of like wrapping my heart, Star Wars heart around me. I really feel like I'm immersed in that part of Star Wars. And
it feels very familiar to me, because it's a redwood forest, and I grew up around redwood trees here in Northern California, so so I always liked that part about it. I think for me, the two moments that really resonate with me is first one is in New Hope, when Luke turns off his targeting computer and he's going to trust the Force.
Yeah.
And then the other moment is in Empire Strikes Back, and it's the famous line, that Vader says, "No, I am your father."
I am your father.
That is such a great moment. Sorry, spoilers if nobody's seen the film. So I would think by now most people have seen it. People who tune into this will have seen it.
I do laugh at really strange parts. So when but that's impossible. Like, it just cracks me up every time I see that. Like, I know it's supposed to be a serious moment, but I just crack up.
Okay, I'll tell you what cracks me up.
Okay.
Okay. There's that moment in Return of the Jedi when Obi-Wan's the ghost, he's a Force ghost at this point, and he's telling Luke, about that he you have the Force powers, and so does your sister.
Yeah.
And Luke goes, Leia's my sister, and I always expect the next line to be, "Oh, I kissed my sister," because he did in twice. Like, she kissed him on the cheek in New Hope, but then she planted a big wet one on him, and it's like
to make Han jealous. Yeah,
that's a little weird, George.
It is. I do think they should have played that up. That would have been funny.
Of course, they didn't know. The two characters didn't know at that point.
Yeah, true. Let's see. It's kind of like goes without saying, but any upgrades? Would you make any upgrades to the suit if you could go back in time and bring modern technology with you?
Oh, sure. I mean, gosh, just even working on the effects for the prequels. We had a term at Industrial Light and Magic, and I think it's used throughout the industry. Is there's a term called CBB, which is could be better, which means all right, it's done for now. If we have time, later on before the film's finished, to go back and do one more pass on this thing, one more shot at it, then we'll do that. And sure, there's different shots that I worked on as a visual effects artist where I thought, gosh, I'd like to do just one more version of that. And it's like, nope, we gotta keep going. There are some things like I would say that for the big one for me is in Revenge of the Sith, I would not have shown Anakin becoming Vader.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I would say that the reason I wouldn't do that is because that way, if you watch them in numerical order and you've never seen the films before, when you get to that moment in Empire Strikes Back and he says, no, Vader says, no, I am your father, then it's still a shock. It's a surprise. Otherwise, if you watch them in numerical order, it's like, yeah, we know. So,
right. Like a degree of trusting the audience that they're going to get to that part or, yeah.
But
like,
that's why I always tell people, if you've never seen the Star Wars films, watch them in order of release, not numerical order. Right. I still think they work better that way.
I do too.
And then I never understood exactly why the tech looks so much better in the prequels than it did in the original films. It's like, it's like I would have sort of tried to kind of downgrade the look of it, but well, I guess you could argue that by the time we get to New Hope, the rebels are don't have the access to the a lot of the tech. It's like whatever they can scrape together, but that doesn't cover the Imperials. They've still got some tech that doesn't look nearly as good as what was in the prequels at that point. Right. But that's nitpicking. I'm saying.
Just Paul says, let's see. Well, lots of comments here. Shamim says Peter May, who was Chewbacca.
Yes, Peter Mayhew. Yes, dear friend of mine. Yeah.
And then Paul says my favorite shot was Lando and Chewie left the Medfrigate in Falcon. Luke said meet on Tatooine. So moving.
Oh yes. That's a good moment.
And then Shamim says Thomas for me, Duel of Fates and Anakin versus Obi-Wan battle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was happy to work on that sequence just a little bit. It's such a good moment, and it's still, and it's funny. The last time I was on the show, Jason had mentioned, that there's, that parts of the music in the original, in like Empire Strikes Back, or that he never, never got better than that. That was like the very best of Star Wars music. However, it's like he and I afterwards, we were discussing it. We thought, well, there is that music for Duel of the Fates, which is still just a fantastic piece of music that's almost as good as the Imperial March. So.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's fun, quote unquote fun, is rewatching A New Hope with a teenager who didn't who didn't grow up with it, and watching the first lightsaber fight with them, because I watched one with like a skeptic of Star Wars, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is weak sauce," because like they've that's the comment, like, this is weak sauce. Because literally, it's like two, and it's a family show, but literally, it's two guys hitting sticks together, like.
Well, I mean, you have to remember that neither Dave Prowse nor Alec Guinness were trained swordsmen, and so they had to be trained by Peter Diamond to do that sequence. Also, at the time when they first started shooting that sequence, they didn't know exactly how they were going to do the lightsaber effect. Yeah. And the first thing that they tried was they had rotating rods sticking out of them that were kind of squared off. And on each side, they had, as I remember correctly, they had Scotchlite material, which is what they made movie screens out of. And it's embedded with all these little tiny glass beads that amplify any kind of light that is hitting it. And they had a very bright light right next to the lens of the camera pointing at that to try to make it glow. And they had it spinning so that you didn't have like sharp edges. So it would be kind of a blur, but it would still glow. Did not work. I mean, it worked in theory, But the problem was every time they whacked those things together, they just scratched all that stuff off of them.
Oh,
So
geez.
they went with just a solid rod, and they had to go through and rotoscope it. They had to go through it and trace the outline. They had it projected, the footage projected onto an animation stand, and then they drew the outline on animation paper and then inked it onto traditional animation cells, refilmed it, and that's how they created the matte so they could add the color and the glow and all that sort of thing.
Wow, like a lot of people who aren't like used to being on sets or not actors, just like like even myself as a kid, just thinking, that was just like such a simple scene to film, but really there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah,
so many jobs behind the scenes that make that magical moment.
I have found that on almost every production that I've been involved with, there are no simple scenes. Even just conversations back and forth, there's so much that goes into it that a lot of people don't even realize, as far as like the lighting and microphones and the staging and everything, it's just, there's a lot to it.
Like I know this is not Star Wars related, but like the Council of Elrond with so like that 3-minute scene took like all day. I was watching behind the scenes. Like, it took all day to film that epic 3-minute scene. Oh
sure,
so
it's
a lot of like
a long time
waiting around.
I was on a project one time, and it took us like 20-25 takes just to do this one little tiny scene. Because something would go wrong, or they'd want to go back and change it, or the actor blew their line or something. So and then there's just all the time that goes into it beforehand, setting it up, setting up the lights, setting up the cameras, setting up the dolly track, setting up everything, and then lighting it with whoever the stand-ins are, then bringing in the main cast to run through it and rehearse it and everything. So there's a lot involved.
And then like even. Like I'm a recent graduate from UC Riverside with my acting degree, but like we learned how to make short films, and like I've had my own projects where I forgot to do a certain take or a certain angle, and it's like that just like missing the take is so brutal like in post, because you're like, what?
It even happens on feature films and on any kind of shoot. When we were working on the Jedi Knight game at LucasArts, which again had like a half hour of full motion video in it for the cutscenes, there was the main character is this character named Kyle Katarn, who finds out that he's actually a Jedi, or he has force powers that he can wants to learn to be a Jedi. There were, after they did the whole shoot in Los Angeles for this with all the actors, we got it back to ILM, got it all in the computer, and we realized we had no close-ups of the character's hands and feet that we needed for some of these things. So I ended up being Kyle Katarn's hands and feet, and I ended up being the Dark Jedi Jarek's hands and feet. We had one conference room at LucasArts that had a blue screen in there, and then we shot all that stuff in there. So
oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Like now you have those stories. Like no one else can say that they did that.
Slight pause as he uses the tissue to wipe his nose.
And then we have Jason, our host. Greetings from Disneyland. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
And
where's my churro?
Are people grilling? We asked our fans to stop you and try to stump the Dark Lord. So hopefully, someone's done that so far. And then that's what Shanine's asking. Was he in the Taco Bell commercial? Peter Mayhew.
Oh yes,
he was. Okay.
I was in a commercial with Peter Mayhew and Anthony Daniels. This was for Singular Wireless back before it became AT&T, and it was an interesting shoot. This is one for Star Wars ringtones, and we were shooting at the historic Culver City Studios, where a lot of famous films and TV shows were filmed there. A lot of Hollywood history in that studio. And my call time and Anthony's call time was much later in the day, because Peter was the main featured character. Chewbacca was the featured character in the commercial. So the whole gag is that it's Chewbacca's in a recording booth, and they're recording these ringtones, and the director's saying, "All right, now do one like you're happy." And Chewbacca goes like that, Then he said, "Now do one like you're sad." It's the same every time. every single time. It's like,
Yeah.
so Peter had been there all day long
Yeah.
shooting
Wow.
this thing because we didn't come in. Anthony
Dedication.
and I didn't come in until like later in the afternoon. And I show up, and Peter's sitting in like one of those director chairs, and he's got the whole Chewbacca costume on except for the head. He's just dripping with sweat. And I walk up, and he goes, "Oh, hello, Andrew." I said, "You okay?" And he goes, "I will be, yeah." But then they said to me, "Okay, yeah, Andrew, your trailer's right around here." And I was like, "Shut up! I don't have a trailer." No, your trailer is over here. And there were 3 trailers, just like stars would have on a movie set. There's one for Peter and one for Anthony, and mine was right in the middle. It said Andrew on it there. I couldn't believe it. I was wanting to invite everybody in. Hey, check it out! It's like,
I have a trailer
there. But yeah, that was a fun thing to shoot. It's funny. The sad part is that when it actually finally aired, they cut it down to almost nothing for most of the time. But if you go on YouTube, you can actually just search for like Star Wars ringtones commercial. There is the full version is on there, and you can find it, and it's much funnier. So,
I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
Jason says, "I ate it. Yum."
You ate my churro? Thanks, buddy. Gee, I hope I enjoyed it. Wow. Okay.
And then Shamim is asking, was this before or after Oprah?
That was after Oprah. Yeah, the Oprah show. I was on the Oprah Winfrey show back in 1997. We shot it in February of 97 and aired in March of 97. And I know that because the coldest place on the entire planet, in the entire galaxy, it's not Hoth, it's Chicago in February, and we were there shooting the Oprah Winfrey show. So that was when we were doing a whole thing to promote the special edition coming out. And so Oprah was interviewing on the show Mark Hamill, Peter Mayhew, Anthony Daniels, George Lucas was there via satellite, and Billy D. Williams had a pre-recorded interview there. Yeah. But they also brought out the Star Wars characters. So we had someone from Skywalker Ranch that was filling in for Chewbacca. We had Grant Imahara from Mythbusters. A lot of people know him from Mythbusters. Dear friend who has sadly passed away. But Grant was playing 3PO that night, and we had R2, which was radio controlled, and we had an Ewok, which was Margarita Fernandez, who was one of the original Ewoks from Return of the Jedi. So they all come out first with Oprah, and then Vader comes out afterwards. But that was actually where I first met Peter, and then we became friends and stayed friends up until he passed. So I knew Peter for like 25 years. So.
That's awesome. Like that's part of like being an actor too. Just the joy. Like there's obviously so much work put into the role, but then those lasting relationships you have on set, like as long as it's not a toxic environment, but like
right. And I have found that the majority of people, at least that I've come in contact with in the entertainment industry, are actually decent people.
Right.
They're nice people, and sometimes it surprises me just how easygoing and cool they are. I worked on a film with Morgan Freeman, and he was just kind of laid back, and he was exactly what you would expect him to be.
Right.
Other than you kind of expect him to be narrating everything, but it's
kind of like as seen on TV.
Yes. But,
let's see. Oh, Jason says. Kind of time to go to a hyperspace mountain. Thanks.
Oh, sure. Just rub it in, Jason. Just rub it in that you're there and we're not. So. Okay.
So yeah. Let's see. I was actually going to say as a kid, because I was born in '87, so I remember growing up with Star Wars. I want to say my parents made it to the premiere, but I'm not like of one of the films, but I'm not really sure. Have to ask them. But I remember being scared of C-3PO. So like whenever I saw a light bulb as a kid, I would like freak out. It's like an exposed light bulb.
Interesting.
I don't know what it was. Like today, yeah. Today,
I hear people say all the time that they get scared of Vader, they get scared of some of the aliens and everything, but I never heard anybody say that they were scared of 3PO. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but then
Well, Anthony was always nice to me, so I don't know.
That's well. Funny enough, he's one of my favorite characters today. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
like not liking lasagna when you're a kid, and you like lasagna as an adult kind of like thing. And then
it's
like,
always interesting how we perceive things as a kid as opposed to, when we get older. So.
And then like Jabba the Hutt reminded me of my Filipino grandfather.
Oh my
so, like,
gosh!
he's this just temperament and everything, like honorary and like he also was very much.
Did he look like Jabba?
Just the face. I don't know what
he had like jowls or something.
Well, just like and then I like some double chins. Like he was a cute grandpa, but like just very Jabba and like I think it was the eyes. It was like mainly the eyes for me. And
wow.
So like for a while I was just like I had to ask her, like how is Papa Tony like what? So she had to explain. And
that's hilarious. Wow. Sorry. So, I shouldn't laugh at that, but that's funny.
It's okay.
When I have a Star Wars story involving my grandmother on my father's side. So when I was working on Phantom Menace, I was doing a lot of stuff for the ground battle on Naboo, and we were doing a lot of matte paintings, and George wanted beautiful puffy white clouds all over Naboo. Actually, my wife Veronica Loud ended up shooting a lot of cloud photos for us because we ran out of cloud photos real quick. So I was working on this one background, and I found a cloud, and I swear it looked like my grandmother without her dentures. Like, and so I doctored it in Photoshop so that it looked even more like her without her dentures, and put it in the shot just to see, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna notice.
Know that that's your
and so it goes into nightlies. I wasn't in nightlies that night. Yeah. There's dailies and nightlies in visual effects. There's dailies, which is usually the director is there. Actually, no, it did go into dailies. That's right. It didn't go into nightlies. It went into dailies because it went through. Nightlies is without the director usually. It's just within the company. The visual effects supervisor would kind of sign off on something, and then it goes to dailies so that the director can look at it. And so the shot made it through nightlies. Nobody said anything, and then it went into dailies, and I didn't happen to be there for dailies. And my direct supervisor came back and goes, "Nah, take it out." He saw it. So I kind of eased up again and made it so that it didn't look quite so much like my grandmother. But then the way that they framed the shot, they cropped it so you can't really see. But she's in there somewhere.
She's in there somewhere. She's in the credits somewhere.
Well, we're always sneaking stuff like that into things.
It's so much fun. Yeah. So did you use that? Do you use that to kind of like in between gigs as an actor? That's kind of like your work.
Well, it's interesting. At the time, it's different nowadays, but at the time, things were very cyclical and very seasonal, so that films would come out, especially the big tentpole movies like a Star Wars film or something like that would come out in winter around Christmas time, or they come out in summer. That means you would do your visual effects for them in fall and in spring.
Right.
And so I found that by being able to do both visual effects and acting, I had a better shot at working more throughout the year. Because what would happen is you would after you finished up everything in the spring for the summer releases, you'd get laid off for a while at like ILM and other places like that. Then they bring you back in fall to work on the stuff for the Christmas releases. And that's how it was over and over again. So I would go and do acting and stuff, but I've always loved both, so I never wanted to choose. So
got to do both. I because right now I'm sort of at that stage as an actor, like not having a job that I'm completely tied to, so I can act when it comes along. Also having a way to pay the bills, so
that's important. Yes,
but also wanting to be adjacent to the industry somehow, like something also in the industry to network, like you're talking about.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be a starving artist. You want to have food on the table and bills paid, but at the same time, you want something flexible so that if you get an audition or a gig or something like that, you can go and you can do it. So, or you quit your job and start something different. Like I was working in accounting before I got hired at LucasArts, so just because it paid the bills. So.
Yeah, I heard George Clooney used to like work in men's suits or something
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Says Shamim says May 16th, 2009, me and Andrew Nelson's friendship. 16 years this May 16th.
That's right. I know. All the
Patricia,
time.
my parents were Mel Brooks fans, so I saw Spaceballs prior to any of the originals.
Oh,
Appreciate
interesting.
it.
So you saw the satire before you saw what it was based on. That's funny. Interesting. And did you still enjoy it? That's what I want to know. So
Paul says Andrew had to erase the cows on the Petaluma Hills for Battle of Naboo.
yes, when we were working on the all those backgrounds, all those map paintings for the Naboo, Naboo doesn't really exist. It's actually, I mean, sorry to burst everybody's bubble. It's not a real planet somewhere. It's actually the farmland north of the San Francisco Bay Area. It's in a little town called Petaluma. And
I've been there so many times.
oh yeah, and so visual effects supervisor Dennis Murin went up to Petaluma with a 35 millimeter still camera loaded with motion picture film stock, and he shot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos of the rolling green hills there. So that got digitized into the computer, and then we brought it into Photoshop. And so I would take like foreground grass from one photo, and midground grass from another photo, and background grass from another photo, and each hill would be probably from a different photograph, and you put it all together and make it look beautiful and add some atmospheric haze. But you have to paint out all the cows and the telephone poles and the tire tracks and things like that. So, and then mess it all up with Gungan footprints, scorch marks, and battle damage after you made it all look perfect. So.
What's your favorite thing that you've worked on like that isn't Star Wars related?
That isn't Star Wars related?
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Okay.
Absolutely loved working on Galaxy Quest, and it's actually my favorite movie. I say it all the time. I say that if the last known copy of Galaxy Quest and the last known copy of Citizen Kane are in a burning building, and I only have time to race in and save one, goodbye Rosebud. I'm going in and I'm getting Galaxy Quest. It's just. It's really interesting. I said this to a lot of people, especially at conventions. I'll say, because a lot of people don't realize this. When you're working in visual effects, you can work for a very long time, 6 months to a year or longer on a project, but you have no clue whether or not the film you're working on is actually any good.
Yeah.
Because when you're working on it, unless you're the visual effects supervisor or something like that, you're seeing everything out of sequence.
Yeah.
You're seeing it completely without sound. And you're just seeing the portion of it that you've been assigned to, and that's it.
That's it.
However, when we were working on Galaxy Quest at Industrial Light and Magic, the studio sent us a rough cut, which just does not happen. So we all piled into one of the screening rooms at ILM and sat down to watch that. And we were like, oh my gosh, this movie's great. So it got us all jazzed and excited. So I'm very happy and proud to have worked on that. I was actually only supposed to do one tiny little thing on one shot in the film. And while I was working on that, I said, well, while I'm working on this, I could do this too for you. You go, oh, okay, great. Thank you. Right. And then I said, well, if I'm doing that and this, I can composite it too for you. And then I can do this and do this digital paint. And I kept, it's like when you take a car to the mechanic and they go, well, I'm under the hood. I can take care of this stuff. And so I just ended up doing the whole shot, by myself basically. And then I noticed that there was another shot that was the exact same camera setup. So it's basically one big shot, but it was divided in two. And I said, well, I can do that one too. So I did what was going to be assigned to 5 different people, 5 different artists, and I got it done in a very short amount of time. And that's how I ended up with a whole lot more shots on Galaxy Quest. Because, I saved the money and time.
Shamim says, Galaxy Quest, Tim Allen story.
Yeah. And Tim Allen wasn't even the original choice to be in the film. It was going to be when Harold Ramis was directing it. It was going to be Kevin Kline, so which would have been okay, but it just wouldn't have been the same.
I'm a big Tony Shalhoub fan. So.
Oh yes, he's wonderful on that. Yes, and I keep the poster on my wall to remind myself of the famous line from Galaxy Quest, which is "Never give up, never surrender." Because when you are trying to get into the entertainment industry or trying to stay in the entertainment industry,
right?
You knock on so many doors and you get so many people saying no, but you will eventually get a yes. It might not be the yes you expected. It might be a yes that leads to a yes that leads to where you wanted to go. Yeah. it might be a yes that takes you much further than you could ever have imagined. And that's why I say, you can't give up. So I always keep that on my wall to remind me: never give up, never surrender.
My my acting teacher, I don't know if you've met Kimberly Guerrero. She's a career actress.
Yep.
So she mentioned like the industry will make and break your heart so many times.
Yeah.
In more pieces
definitely.
than you imagine. Like it's like an actual relationship. Like it's like the best, worst toxic relationship in a way.
Yeah.
Because like you're hoping for so much, and then some stuff just always. You never know.
It's happened to me. Even in conjunction with Star Wars, it's like I had an opportunity to actually play one of the Sand People, one of the Tusken Raiders in Attack of the Clones, and I was out sick that day. And they were going to be shooting it in ILM, and they needed some people, and I thought, oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
And I was out sick, and it's like I was just heartbroken. I wanted to do that so much, but I did okay.
I'm always afraid. That's my fear. Is like I do try to use the Force, imagine the Force is real. Like I try to use the Force, make sure, okay, am I going to call out on a day where so and so might arrive at Disney or something? Just because.
It's like somebody said to me at a convention one time. They said, "Oh, you're so lucky," and I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not lucky. Not in the traditional sense." I said, "Luck is an acquired skill. You can learn to be lucky. It's about opportunity meeting preparedness." And that's just really what it is. You have to, sometimes create opportunities for yourself. But it's just being ready, not being in the right place at the right time, but being ready for any place to be the right place at any time.
Right.
Having your stuff together, having a demo reel, having your headshot and resume, business cards, whatever it is, being ready to network. And then getting out there and being around the people who do what you want to do, whether that's in a physical sense or in a virtual sense, just to be around them so that you learn. Right,
it's so true. Speaking of demo reels, I gotta make my new one.
Okay, yes.
And then
so do I. I'm so lazy. I'm such a lazy actor.
I know it's like you just gotta sit there and make it, like edit it and just.
Well, one of the especially as a voice actor, one of the big sin with me is that I haven't put together a demo reel in ages, because when you work at a game company like LucasArts, what happens? It was a big company, and eventually, and people go off and they start their own companies, or they work somewhere else, and they would go, oh yeah, I remember Andrew does voice acting, and then they tap you to do that sort of thing. So that's networking has gotten me a lot of gigs as opposed to just having a demo reel. But I should have a demo reel. Everybody should have a demo reel.
DK Phipps Studio says, "I love your M&M commercial."
Thank you very much, Kimberly. Yes, the M&M's commercial, that was a lot of fun too. That was you're talking about all the different times in the costume. That was great. It was an interesting shoot because we had to go all the way to Argentina to shoot it. Because it's you can find it on YouTube. It's called Red's Decision. It's a whole thing about Vader it's about for dark chocolate M&Ms. So Vader's turning the two M&Ms to the dark side. That's the whole gag. But we had to go all the way down to Argentina to shoot it because the advertising agency, they wanted to make $1 million commercial. They did not have $1 million budget. They had a $300,000 budget. So they shopped around and realized, okay, with the exchange rate, if we go to Argentina, the dollar goes 3 times as far, and that's our $1 million commercial right there.
Right.
And actually, they had the guys from the ad agency. They were like, put us up in the swankiest hotel in Buenos Aires, and they were dropping cash everywhere. They were getting massages and everything. I probably shouldn't say all this, but I don't even know if they're working anymore. But it was great because we were able to bring the director of photography, the cinematographer David Tattersall from the prequels, to come down and shoot it, so it looks just like the movies. So it's great, and we had to rebuild an entire set from Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar.
Wow.
But that was a lot of fun to do, and it's like, but I had my own little like a craft services table just for me, and a little tent and a fan. They treated me very nicely there on that one. But because it was a long day, we only had one day to shoot the commercial and the print ad for it too. So I was in the costume for like 21 hours straight almost. You get to take the mask off in between each take, but other than that, you had everything else on.
Right, and just so the audience knows, like that's not always guaranteed on set. Like you're not always treated with snacks.
No.
Restroom or AC or anything.
when I worked on the Oliver Stone film, when I was in the Oliver Stone film The Doors, about Jim Morrison and The Doors, yeah, I got a cup of bouillon and an apple. That was it.
Wow.
And go stand over there in the rain. We're gonna shoot. Yes.
Sounds like a chapter of an autobiography that your wife should include.
Yep.
Shamim is saying, Corey Orton says the DVD of Galaxy Quest gives you the option to watch the whole movie in, is it Thermian?
Yes, Thermian language. It's so funny. They dubbed the entire film in the Thermian language. I mean, it's not just like you can play a little bit and you think, okay, that's probably not the whole film. They did the whole film on the DVD. You can find. So if you can stand, they have that kind of language there. It's there. You can watch it. It's hilarious.
Shamim asking, what was the hardest video game you worked on at LucasArts?
Ooh, that's a good question. The hardest video game. I would say I'll give you two that were hard. Jedi Knight was hard because each game that I worked on presented interesting challenges. Jedi Knight was difficult because it was such a big production. We had, like I said, a half hour of footage in the game, live action footage in the game for the cutscenes, and it was basically 300 effect shots. It was like doing a feature film. And I was overseeing half of those effect shots, and an artist by the name of Mike Levine he's the Jedi master that trained me in visual effects back in the day. Mike was overseeing the other half, and so, but then we had a whole bevy of artists underneath that, and programmers and everything. But it was a lot of stuff and a lot of learning to do on that, just to get the stuff in there and make sure that we could compress it and so it would stream and play and everything. And it was a big challenge. But there was another game that I worked on called Force Commander that actually went through 2.5 iterations before it was actually released. I mean, it was actually scrapped 2.5 times basically before the final version. I worked on 2.5 of it. There was actually the final third version of it was what was released. But it's just weird how that happens sometimes. But yeah, those were difficult projects because it's like you put so much into it, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, no, we got to start over again. So
Shamim said, I think Billy West was the red M&M in the commercial with Darth Vader.
Yes, Billy West was the voice of the red M&M. Yes, I even mentioned that to Billy when right after I saw him after that. So I said, "Hey, it was great working with you on that M&M's commercial." He goes, Star Wars M&M's commercial. He goes, "What are you talking about? I didn't see you in the studio." And I said, "No, I was in Buenos Aires. Sorry." But the Billy's great. Billy is amazing. The yellow M&M, just a little bit of trivia here for you, is actually J.K. Simmons.
Oh, wow.
J. Jonah Jameson, yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm slightly moving in the forest to charge my laptop as we're talking.
And he only has one line in the yellow M&M only has one line in that commercial, which is it's the last line of the commercial. He's like, "We'll start on Monday."
This was just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek question, but
okay.
What upgrade would you make to a lightsaber if you could? And my answer was going to be Bluetooth. But
Bluetooth definitely, and you got to be able to charge it. You should be able to put it like on a charging station too. It's like wireless charging. I think so. That's what I would do.
Or like
it's interesting when we were working on the Jedi Knight game. It's like everybody thinks that because before in the original films, lightsabers were either they were blue, they were red, or they were green. And they thought, well, then we get to the prequels, we got all these other colors and everything, and Mace Windu's got that purple one and everything. Yeah. We actually did that on the Jedi Knight game originally. So we had yellow lightsabers, we had orange lightsabers. Some of these Dark Jedi had these characters. They had these Dark Jedi characters had these different colored sabers in that. And there was a purple one, and we actually experimented with a black one, and we never could get it to look right. And that was why I was thrilled to see that Moff Gideon had that that sort of sword type thing that on Mandalorian. So it was so cool.
I love that show. I just got to spend like a whole week rewatching and watching other stuff I haven't watched for Star Wars. How I was curious, how familiar are you with like the comic book stuff and like the books that like some of the stuff that was in your
Marginally familiar.
marginally?
I get asked about that a lot at conventions, and people
Yeah.
ask me all the time. It's like, they'll ask me questions about the different books and things like that. It's like, I don't know any of it. It's like I didn't. It's like I don't even know all the games that I didn't play all the games that I worked on at LucasArts.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all the films that I worked on visual effects for, because you get busy. You get off of one game and you move right on to the next one. There was at one point I was working on 5 games at once at LucasArts. Some of them Star Wars, some of them not. And the same thing would be for films. It's like you finish this one film project, you're right on to the next one. So, and if you miss the company screening or something like that, you just hope that you get a screener copy from like I was a member of the Visual Effects Society, and they'd send out screener copies for the Visual Effects Society Awards, or as a Screen Actors Guild member, you get the the SAG-AFTRA awards, and they'd send out screeners and stuff. So you just hope that would happen. But so yeah, sometimes and then sometimes you've been working on something for so long, it's like I don't even want to see it. I want to move on to the next one. So
we have like a lot of comments and questions. Let's see.
Okay.
It says,
one moment here. Just a moment.
Yeah.
All right.
If
I'm better now.
if your sorry, I don't know why I said if your fault. Your friend Paul says,
Yes?
if not off topic, ask Andrew about quote unquote fish.
It's off topic, Paul. No. Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, Paul knows that I have a YouTube channel called Aquatasy, AQUADASY, like aquatic fantasy, and it's all about tropical fish, because that's the hobby that keeps me from going bonkers. And I tell people all the time, it's like, in fact, you probably see a fish tank over there. But it's a crazy industry. If you work in film or television or games or anything like that, it's a crazy industry, and there's all kinds of pressure on you. And at any given moment, it feels like there is a multi-million-dollar production sitting on your shoulders, waiting for you to get your part of it done.
Right.
That's how it feels. The reality of it is, there really is a multi-million-dollar production sitting on your shoulders, waiting for you to get your part of it done.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Sure.
My daughter just brought some more tea in for me. But it's like phlegm. Just say no, kids. But that's a lot of pressure, and if I didn't have my fish tanks to come home to and just chill with, that would have been horrible.
So is Finding Nemo like one of your favorites?
It is actually. But I do freshwater tanks, not saltwater tanks.
Oh, gotcha. Shamim says, Masters of Terrascasi?
Masters of Terrascasi, otherwise known as Star Wars Tekken. I mean, it literally is. It's basically Tekken, but with Star Wars characters. It's a fighting game.
Star Wars Tekken. DK Phipps Studio says, can you talk about the time you caught fire?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't quite catch on fire. Almost caught on fire. There's sometimes it's a hazardous job. Yeah. I was working on a Kenner toy commercial, and we were shooting in a studio in Connecticut in winter. And in the commercial, this young boy is sitting on the floor of his bedroom, and he's playing with his Star Wars action figures, and he hears a sound behind him, and he turns and he looks, and he sees lasers cutting through his closet doors, and the closet doors falls on the floor, and the room floods with light, and in come Darth Vader and 2 stormtroopers. And the kid's like, whoa, that sort of exaggerated commercial acting, which is what he was told to do. He's a good actor as a kid. Right, yeah. But so we're standing behind the breakaway door, the 2 stormtroopers and myself, and I'm in the back. This is before we had LED lighting. It was, everything is like these old studio, Fresnels and Licos and things like that. Just these really hot lights. Yeah. And I'm standing back there, and the costume, the Vader costume, it's made out of, all the hard parts are made out of fiberglass. So it's thick. And even through that thick fiberglass helmet, I could feel the heat. And I'm thinking, man, that is hot, because they had the lights right up on us because they wanted to flood that room with light.
Yeah.
And so I go, wow, that's hot. And then we're just about ready to roll camera, and somebody goes, do you smell smoke? And it was the cape. It was Vader's cape. And it's like, kill the lights. And they like grab it off of me really quick. And they run outside the studio doors. And like I said, it was winter, so it was cold outside. And they're waving it around outside. A few seconds more, and I probably would have burst into flames. So that was fun.
I wonder what they did to the cape.
You don't get stunt pay or hazard pay for that. So
well, that stinks. Looks like.
Hold on one moment here.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, I could blow my nose on camera. I just don't think it's very pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Shameen. Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a fun one to watch back. It's like Andrew coughing and hacking and wheezing and nose dripping and everything. He's a mess.
I saw.
I'm a trooper. The show must go on. Yes.
I saw one of the influencers that I follow make a video of what mock having Darth Vader as a roommate and like him breathing in the morning, getting coffee, and does he have he's passively aggressively saying like, hey, like, do you have a cold or do you have asthma? Like, do you need help?
I did a couple of commercials. I did a commercial in a TV show like that. We were doing a commercial for Walmart back when the Star Wars original trilogy DVD was released, and it was released first through Walmart, and so it was a commercial with this couple, husband and wife, saying that having the Star Wars original trilogy DVD is just like having the characters with you. And then you see that Vader and Chewbacca are living with them in their home, and they're just doing regular mundane things with them. They're getting cereal and stuff like that in the kitchen, and the wife's getting upset because she looks at her hairbrush and it's full of Wookiee fur and things like that. And at the end of the commercial, this is what I loved doing. This was the end of the commercial. Vader and the couple are sitting on the couch, and Vader's sitting between the husband and wife, and they're watching the DVD, and. And the husband is like trying to use the Force to get the remote to come to him. And it's like that. And then finally Vader just goes, reaches over and grabs it and hands it to him. And I love that sort of thing. We had a rule, a hard and fast rule, that if something took place in the Star Wars universe, we had to play it absolutely straight. You couldn't goof around or anything like that.
Yeah.
However, if it took place in our universe, in our world, we could do all kinds of silly things. So when we did the Showbiz Show with David Spade, we were doing things like that. Like we did a segment that was with comedian Brian Posehn, who is a huge Star Wars nerd, and in real life is a huge Star Wars nerd, and he's in the first episode of Mandalorian. But he's interviewing the head of Lucasfilm at the time, and he falls asleep in the guy's office, and he starts dreaming about what it's like if he lived at Skywalker Ranch. So he's having all these crazy fantasies of, he's playing touch football with Vader and Chewie and stormtroopers, and they're all like standing outside this old lady's house and throwing water balloons and things like that. So there's one moment where I'm sitting on a beanbag chair, and he's sitting on a beanbag chair, and we're playing some Star Wars game on a console, and when he's not looking, I use the Force to make him crash. And so
oh, that's awesome. Like a lot of the stuff that you're mentioning, I'm like remembering watching as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Shameen says Darth Vader lightsaber Kenner toy commercial.
Oh yes, that was the first commercial that I did. Was the when they had the Kenner lightsaber commercial. It was I think that was from around 94 and 95. But it was I had to go to New York to shoot this, and so it was myself and a child actor, and the child is dressed up as Luke, and we're in like the Emperor's throne room from like Return of the Jedi, and he's got the Luke black costume from Return of the Jedi on, and so I have the real saber, and the kid has the toy saber, and the real saber, it has a hard plastic rod sticking out of it where the glowing blade would be, and then we add the effects later. But and so the kid had the toy saber, which is a collapsing, telescoping toy made out of plastic.
Right.
And so that it would show up on camera, they had rigged it with a halogen lamp inside it. And the wire going down the kid's sleeve and down through his pant leg so that you wouldn't see the wire.
Yeah.
But we couldn't leave that on for very long. We had to turn it off right away, right when the take was done, because it was going to melt that lightsaber. So it heated it up. So we found out that we could not actually make contact with each other as we're fighting with the sabers, because the moment he made contact with mine, this sort of wrapped around mine. It was so soft at that point. It just sort of wrapped around the rod there. So we had to just kind of fake it and try to have as much force as we could, excuse the expression. But it was a really interesting commercial, and I always remember that young actor, because he inspired me greatly, because I know he was tired. He was actually kind of sick at the time we were shooting it, and he was just such a good young actor, and he just kept going through. The show must go on, like I said earlier. So.
Patricia says that's hilarious, and Shamin says I own both lightsabers in 1996. Looks like they corrected themselves.
Of course you do. I know you, Patricia. So, the funny thing is, I don't have a lightsaber. I have one of the toy ones. It's still in the box, because it's got a picture of me on the outside. My wife won't let me open it up, so keep it new in box. But actually, like, as far as like the big replicas and everything, I don't have any. Jason has some. I've watched him buy them. So
yeah, I've sold a few. It's really funny, like when the husbands come in and they're like, okay, like,
oh sure, yeah,
I wasn't gonna come in because they're like $400, but they drop $400, and they go and they come back, they're like, oh, my wife or my partner wants one. So like,
oh, okay, that's not.
So it's really dangerous for couples to.
I was thinking it'd be something like can you ring this up real quick? Before like the partner comes in or something, so they don't know how much it cost.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're basically at time. I wanted to respect your time,
Sure.
especially under the weather. But thank you so much for joining me. I was going to say joining me. Us in the audience. We had so much fun that we didn't even get to trivia. So.
Geez, I guess I have to come back again.
Lots of synergy, actors. So thank you again for your time, and
yes.
Thank you all for
everybody. Enjoy your Revenge of the Sixth today.
Enjoy your Revenge of the Sixth.
Yes. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for tuning in to another fun-filled episode of Main Gate Magic. We hope you enjoyed the show. It's been our pleasure bringing a little Disney magic into your life. Please remain seated while the show comes to a complete stop, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast at all times. For more information about upcoming episodes, please make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. You are now free to exit the show. Please watch your step, and be sure to tune in next week for more Main Gate Magic. Bye-bye.